do with Caitlyn that don't require you to be 1v9ing, Roma.
I can cheat and press Q on the wave. I have priority.
Yeah.
Congratulations, jungler. Please go find an advantage now. Like, it's that
much.
semblance of simple Caitlyn play that you can find very frequently an advantage with. You were quite right, though, hitting on Goot's win rates and at least the champions played. Currently 3-0 on the Amumu, so certainly feels confident on this pick. And I do not mind it either versus Anaphelios. Obviously, Immobile ADC has been forced into the cleanse just because of the nature of the jungle pick. So it's a little bit difficult for Bvoy if he doesn't have that cleanse, but hopefully it's all good.
Hopefully we shall see him able to navigate that one. As we have a forward position from Furia taken up here in these brushes with Heimer turrets. And we'll see if Pain Gaming want to step up and take a bit of poke. I imagine they'll take at least some chunk of damage for this, but they'll also know where Goot is starting, so they can know to potentially expect a level 2 gank if they're watching for the Amumu heading down, or, you know, once a certain number of seconds has passed, you can assume he's probably not around.
No, you're not expecting too many early game Amumu ganks, of course. The bandage toss at level 2 is a special if you want to try and make something like that happen, but typically for your clear, it's not the best move. Now, we do get to see the push already come through on this bot side, and I think that Karaoke actually making a fairly smart call starting on the bot lane or starting on the bot side of his own jungle means that he can't get invaded off the back of the priority from Trigo and Ayu. So that means you get to path up to that top side and at least be even through the early stages with Goot.
Yeah, now we didn't really touch on this mid lane matchup super in depth. We mentioned the Envy Victor pick, and Dinkedo has gone back onto the Azir. This has been part of his realignment, part of his moving back into success in the second half of the split that Pain has seen. Dinkedo on Azir has always been a very strong answer for him, and it's been no different right now. They're happy to just give it to him in almost all situations. The surprising part for me is how often the enemy teams are also willing to give it to him for zero effort. And perhaps they will not do it for too much longer, because he has been, yeah, just a changed man on this pick in the second half.
Of course, going to be a fairly neutral laning phase. If there's any kills coming through here, it is going to be by nature of those junglers. And you can already see in the early stages, Dinkedo getting the better end of trades up against Envy. The nature of this matchup is that Envy should never really be able to use his Q onto Dinkedo. If the Azir is ever really in range, then that's a bit of a spacing issue that's happened. And you can see the entry and exit trades that come through for the Azir through the early stages are just a little too strong for a Victor to be able to handle so early on.
See him shoved back by Dinkedo there as Goot has made his way up onto the top side, as has Karaoke as well. And now heading into this river to contest the scuttle. Might take a little look-see and see if he can spot out Goot. He's going to find him with this Scryer's Bloom. We'll have the information. And given the state of both mid and top lane, they're feeling pretty good. Ayu has strolled his way up to top mid lane by the looks of it, and did get a flash out of Dinkedo, presumably with a well-placed grenade. So you don't often see the roaming Heimer coming in that way, but, you know, it's Ayu. We don't really know what to expect. You can never really be sure what's coming out of this player.
No, I'm honestly just super happy with Ayu as an addition to the league. I think was, or has proven to be, a very worthy promotion from the CBLOL Academy. Had a really standout Rakan game earlier on in the split, and whatever sort of stuff he's cooking up in the jungle, or in the support role, excuse me, I'm always more than there for. More than happy to see him pull out these unique picks.
Yeah, I think it certainly was one of the biggest catalysts of Furia. They've not found success and consistency, but they did pick themselves up to get themselves more firmly into the playoffs position. As Ayu has been rooted up, though, by the Gravitum. Damage there to follow up, and a flash will move him, but not nearly enough. First blood for Karaoke, and Ayu, the roaming Heimer, does not make it back to his lane safely.
Unfortunately not. Burned the cleanse from Bvoy, but also loses his life as an exchange. The Gravitum there just being a little too much for the Heimerdinger to handle, and really good capitalization from Karaoke and damage as well, following up on that CC, finding first blood onto the Heimer. And this is just going to compound the nature of a Leona, right? It's really difficult for you to ever really feel confident versus a Leona, because if you end up getting engaged on, the likelihood is that you end up going down, and once you've lost a bit of pressure in that lane, it also makes it even harder.
We saw the tweet for Kaboom coming up on the screen right there. Kaboom really wanting Pain to keep Furia where they are at 7 and 8 in 6th position in the standings right now. Kaboom couldn't find that win earlier, but they've got 2 more chances and they're only 1 win behind. Anyone who can leapfrog Furia makes it into playoffs. Currently, they are gatekeeping that spot as Goot finds the bandage over the wall into a cleanseless B-Boy, and the IU play comes good.
That's all IU right there. He gets himself an assist on the board. But yeah, you're quite right. No cleanse means that B-Boy, unfortunately, just falls there. And this is actually a much better trade if we look at the 2 kills that we've seen, because you would much rather have your support die as Furia, and that's exactly what happened, than your AD carry die for Pain Gaming. Goot shows his face, doesn't go too far forward. The team not quite being there recognizes it's not the optimum maneuver. But again, like we mentioned, it's a kill onto the support from Pain Gaming, which they don't particularly, feel too bad about as Furia. And they get to take down B-Boy, deny some minions under the turret, and again, feel like they're generating more of an advantage. They also get to transition this into a dragon. Now, this is a 2v2 that you may not have expected to be a really good one at taking Drake, but Amumu W plus Heimerdinger actually take Drakes significantly quicker than other support jungle pairings. The Amumu passive rework about a year or 2 ago now. Whenever you do damage as a magic damage person, it actually turns a percentage of it into true damage.
Of course, yeah, the Amumu, great setup there, and of course for players like Heimerdinger and Victor, as we get into team fights, the Chaos Storm from Victor, the lasers coming across, all benefit from this AP damage if Goot can get that massive Curse of the Sad Mummy to set them up, as now FMB is currently positioned deep in this lane with Karaoke in the river, but is going for the Scuttle instead, and Cassante should be able to walk his way out of this one. He's got the ult as well if he needs to, and Cassante notoriously hard to nail down, even in the early stages.
One of this is a really strong thing about blue side Cassante, strangely enough, is that you can position down on that massive wall and just isolate the 2 versus 1 into a 1 versus 1 that can sometimes end up under your turret. So it gets really difficult to gank a Cassante post level 6, just for fear of him launching you A back into his own turret and then B potentially into his own jungler as well.
Yeah, I made a quite foolish statement fairly recently, Rude, about Cassante. I was casting another game, and I said, Cassante just doesn't really carry games. And I got super embarrassed that day, I'll be honest, because the Cassante went on to 1v9 every single fight, find perfect stuns and knockbacks onto the AD carries of mid laners, and then just all out and then start dashing and murdering everyone in 5 hits. It was quite a wake up for me, and I learned why I'm not a color caster again, or reaffirmed why, I guess, on that day. But we have to always be watching, I guess. And Cassante, even though he is technically, probably defined as a tank in many ways, the all-out does really add so much threat in the team fights. And FMB, a strong carry in himself as a player.
A tank that decidedly turns into a bruiser at the push of a button, right?
Just turns into Aurelia and just
exactly. Do you remember going back to the days when Ornn got released and his classification was literally everything under the sun because of how high his damage numbers were? So yeah, it's definitely not an unseen premise that tanks do damage.
Yeah, the good old days, or possibly the dark ages, depending on whether you're an AD carry player or not, to be honest.
I was playing AD carry, I was not happy with those days.
Not a fun one. Stinkedo might have to watch out for Goot here in the river, but he's heading onto that top side, positioning himself away from the threat on the bot side river. Furia will take a favorable trade, as he knows Stinkedo has to seed the ground, and it will just be the CS lead for the Azir right now. So we're still relatively even now, a couple hundred gold in the favor of Pain Gaming to a dragon for Furia. Herald's still up and waiting though, as we head towards the 10-minute mark. And now normally we'd see, bot laners start rotating up to try and make a Herald fight work, or some big play onto the top side to transition into it. We'll see who manages to find an opening to grab that extra gold.
Yeah, a little bit strange for this early game. Normally would have seen at least some ventures up toward that top side, but I think that, it would have just appeared that both of our teams are quite happy to sit back and scale this one up. No surprises either. Both Aphelios and Caitlyn, and Azir and Victor respectively, are both very, very scary in the late game. And when we look at pure damage in the late game, you are going to look for Pain Gaming to have just slightly more Jax versus Cassante, obviously leaning a little more Jax favoured. The same to be said for the Wukong versus the Amumu, but there is a little bit more CC and a bit more setup on the Furia side. The obvious sort of 50-50 of that is that you'd expect to see Furia's front line just be a little bit more durable and be able to give Trigo, IU, Envy a bit more space and a bit more time.
Pain Gaming currently pretty deep up in this bot lane, trying to deny a jungle camp, but Karaoke won't get it done. Goot will arrive and pick it up for himself with a nice little leash. I just realized that we actually still have Leona dancing away in the bottom right, on top of the minimap. Yeah, she's big time chilling right here. And Damage just hit his ultimate, will probably not be chilling as much, as now the Leona ultimate is there. We can start seeing threat onto people like IU, with a Heimerdinger with no dasher to speak of. Only the flash to try and survive, but of course diving into a Heimerdinger, you have to have that calculation done correctly, because if you don't kill him instantly, the turrets will start making a bit of a mess of you.
You don't kill him instantly is bad news. Is the TLDR, right? Drake is spawning in about a minute, just under a minute, 30 seconds in fact, at the top left there. So it's going to be Furia now looking to set up some vision in this river at the very least. Skullcrab doing great work for Pain Gaming, and as I mentioned that, we see Goot and IU both synchronize their recalls, so looking to stock up on those wards, be as powerful as possible for this Drake. They have got one already. It's a Hex Tech rather, respawning. Gotten into the habit of never saying Chemtech, and then it came back into the game, and all sorts of befuddlements befelled me. But either way, they're both heading here, and I think that with Amumu Heimerdinger not having hit Demonic Item just yet, it could be a sign for them to take not a fight.
Exactly. Trigo currently probably sitting on some gold, given that he has been up in CS by about 10 or so. Over B-Boy, who does have currently the boots and the dagger to his name. Trigo going to pick up this wave and would probably like to pull a recall himself, get himself Zerka's Greaves, get himself something to have an edge over the Aphelios in this ensuing fight, but Karaoke not willing to give him that time. He's on vision right now, and they're going to try and make their way through. Damage has a position up in that top side there on the river. We'll come back to his team. Jack's made his way down. FMB's coming. Everyone's rocking up for this one. We've got a little 5v5 on our hands, everybody.
Damage just misses that. Drake's about gone.
Oh, in comes Visor, deep in, pushes Trigo and IU all the way out. Gutno back in, does have the ultimate, drops onto 2, remember. There's the reduced AP damage as Trigo with the ace in the hole finds Dinketo. Excises that mid laner, and now the other one under fire from Karaoke, but FMB's arriving from the mid lane. And Furia, they escape the engage, find one of their own, and get the kill.
That was gorgeous. Like that was really impressive, actually. Got to give credit where it's due, because they managed to prevent Damage from ever finding a successful engage. The Zenith Blade went wide, so was had to just flash in with Solar Flare. They then all get out to safety and manage to find a re-engage and get out once again. Goot, when he goes over that wall with Bandage Toss, I'm thinking, brother, the team are not here to support you, but fortunately Victor, Caitlyn have got enough long-range artillery for them to actually be able to find a kill.
IU, though, flashless versus the red and white Aphelios. Probably not making it out of this. Bind a flash to confirm it. And B-Void with a nice punish to get something back. Pain, of course, did also secure that Hextech Dragon, so they will get that benefit and they'll stop any early stacking. But here's the replay of that fight. As you say, 2 distinct phases here. I thought Pain had it when they kicked it off.
Yeah, and they take the Drake, but they want more. They know that they've got good setup, they've got Engage to find more than just the Dragon from this. And as soon as Weiser gets in there, you're thinking, wow, this is just going to be an absolute slaughter. But burns all of his cooldowns to get in, not quite enough ready for the follow-up as well. And as soon as a great flash cleanse from Trigo happens, you're actually left a little bit holding nothing particularly at present. So more than happy with how Furia played that. Envy did manage to just round out his combo and put in a really good position, a really good fight from the Furia front.
Yeah, for sure. And it is now even up in the kills. Pain still 1,000 gold in the lead, must be said. Helpful to pick up that kill onto IE from B-Boy there. And given the team setups here, one side with the Leona, with the Wukong to force these engages, a potential shuffle as well. On the other side, the Amumu ult. Both of these teams have solid long-range engage tools. And a lot of summoners were burned there, so maybe they'll try and leverage that pretty soon as we see potential stack up from Pain onto the bot side. Maybe threat onto Envy, but he's one of the few with Flash still up, so maybe he may be alright down there.
Yeah, that's one where it's a little more tricky to get away with than you might have first thought. They all managed to make their way out at the very least. And I think that moving into this mid game, having seen such a close fight, it's quite indicative of how we're going to see this game played out. If you can find successful engages, you're going to do well. If, however, those engages start fluffing and aren't quite up to the top metrics that we need them to be, the kite capability of both of these sides is actually fairly decent. You don't want to start walking through Azir soldiers, Aphelios turrets if they're put down. The same to be said for gravity wells and traps and turrets from IU as well. You need to be clinical with your engages and finding them distinctly going your way. Otherwise, you're going to give the enemy team time to set up and time to turn back and fight you.
Certainly do, as Pain Gaming heads onto this Herald. Karaoke's going to pick that one up, and both the mid and top lane have been going pretty well for them. CS leads in either department. We saw the stat on the screen there with Dinkedo before. 86% win rate when ahead in farm at 15. He's currently got that to his name on the Azir, this pick that's been working so well for him over the past few weeks, as Furia do have the potential to upset and destabilize anyone over the last few weeks, but we never know they're actually going to do it until they've actually killed the Nexus. Right up until the point where they've won, they could very easily lose in any 5-minute period.
It's kind of irritating to see at a certain point, right? You're like, oh, surely they're in such a good position, now they're going to win. Oh, no, never mind, they've furried it. And then the same exact thing happens where they've got no purpose winning a game, and then, they furrier it in a good way and start winning a fight that they have absolutely no purpose doing. So they do take down this bot lane tier 1 turret as well, so finding at the very least something, as Goot is in absolute Narnia.
He is in the wrong side of town right there, boxed into a corner with no flash, easily picked up and a kill fed over to Dinkedo's Azir as the Herald dropped into mid lane. Pain using that long range engage off the table pretty much for Furia, and now they've got this Herald. They want to crash this one in, make the most of this to extend that gold lead. They've even brought Weiser down for it.
Yeah, 5 people at least with potential to make it into the mid lane. You're always happy to see that, obviously making the most at the time that they've got. First turret in the mid lane falls in favour of Pain Gaming, and Weiser looking fairly aggressively there, it must be said, to try and find a little bit extra. Second charge comes through, and that's going to help out Pain Gaming in the long run. As we do see that the Drake has obviously spawned, they take 2 turrets. Pain Gaming can result in a gold lead extension, plus this dragon as well puts them at 2-1. But I don't know that Furia are going to give this one up as easily as that. We've seen fights around this Drake previously, and Goot's ready.
He's TP'd in, he gets himself into the pit on the dragon before they pull it out, but Karaoke wins the smite fight, and Pain, they've got what they came for. Let's just get out of here, boys. TP committed from FNB, and Furia have to give it up. They can't secure it. Pain just about escaping with no fight there.
And that's what we wanted to see. That's kind of what they were hoping to see Furia do last time, without them finding that kill back. Dinkedo did TP into that top side to collect a fairly decent wave, in fairness. So, again, just a big win for Pain Gaming there. Only 1,500 gold to the good right now. But that's like, these little metrics are going to be what matter when we look at the broad scale of the game, because those little advantages are going to be the difference in these big team fights. At the minute, it's the item discrepancies that you need to be watching out for. Bvoy is actually behind versus Trigo, who's gone very speedily into a Bloodthirsty Gale Force route. It's fairly low damage at the minute, but it is high sustainability. Low chances of Trigo dying because he's got Flash, Cleanse, and Gale Force, plus a BT shield in case anybody wants to try and, push him in that force. So it's really, really good survivability for Trigo.
Yeah.
But he's not going to do too much damage.
No, not at this point. I think it really is going to be the Goot Envy IU combo with that Amumu passive stacking up for the extra damage off that mid and support combo that we have seen. And the Chemtech Soul currently is the target potentially for Pain. I'm looking at the comp they have as well, and there's mixed feelings as to the strength of Chemtech Soul overall, but look at Aphelios, look at Jax. When you take less damage and deal more when you're low on HP, it's a clutch factor Soul, right? And Aphelios is the king of the clutch 1v5.
He is. When you're low on HP, if you've got that red gun, I've seen so many times, just if you're on red-white and you channel your Q as the shotgun gun, you just heal back up to full. But IU, he's in trouble. That's Flash.
He is quite far forward, the Romanheimer again, but Weiser with a TP in, cuts him off at the pass, and Dinkedo gifted another, you know, maybe if you're Belveth, you can pull moves like that, my friend, but the Heimerdinger is not quite got the same intimidating presence when he forrays into the jungle on his own.
And now the rest of Furia might be in a little trouble as well. Looks like they were trying to extend for a tier 1 turret in the mid lane. Unfortunately, there was nothing there for them to get once we've seen IU fall. And it's a couple times now where IU has been just a slither too far forward, and we are getting to see that adjustment to the CBLOL as opposed to CBLOL Academy. Has been a bit of a feature of IU throughout really the duration of his time so far in the league. Has been really good at finding those leading engages, but he's still working his way around where he can and can't be on the map at specific intervals.
Yeah, such a common thing, I think, right, when you see academy promotions from in many different regions, that you just get away with less. You can't kind of do what you want. You have to always be ready, and the enemy team is much more likely to predict where you're going to be or be prepared to punish where you are if they find you, as opposed to just not really thinking about it. So IU, as we say, punished there a little bit, has got the Rylai's. I imagine will work his way towards the Zhonya's at some point, but still quite vulnerable at this stage, as Furia now mounting a push on this mid lane turret, but B-Boy, he's got red and white. You don't want to be engaging too hard here, and I think they'll just give this one up.
And the thing with Bloodthirster Rush on both of you, these AD carries, is you have to make a choice on your second item. Do you go for the 40% amplifier, or do you go for the mythic item? We've seen both sides of the coin here, with B-Boy opting into the Infinity Edge third versus the Gale second versus the Gale 4 second for Trigo. And we found an engage.
Onto FNB, though. Probably not going to stick too hard, as Cassante can waste time till the ends of the earth. Wiser not currently in the area either. They get a nice bit of damage onto him, but Furia head straight up into this Baron pit. Maybe because they see Wiser down there with no teleport. And this is a pretty ballsy call. Again, still red and white Aphelios with Flash, with Cleanse. If they can get into range with Dinkedo, this could get pretty hairy.
Karaoke's got a flank. He's got the Super Cone as well. Here they go!
Oh, in goes Goot. He finds the route forward, but he can't find B-Boy. And look, the damage fired back is immense. And Wiser finally now rocks up. Could look to flank, could cut them off from the jungle, but Pain, that's enough. They've got what they needed. They trade jungle for support and the Baron stops.
And more importantly as well, it's on the timer of a dragon. Look at the top left of your screens once again, 20 seconds before that Drake spawns. It's about the same time before Goot spawns as well. Pain Gaming going to look to have control around that bot side, around that dragon. They're not going to have too many wards just because their support has died, but by and large, they will accept this as a victory. They stopped the Baron, and they were able to take this Drake. They are now at Chemtech Soul Point. That clutch factor itching ever closer to going their way.
Yeah, and those individual Chemtechs offering tenacity and shielding as well. Again, look at B-Boy. Look how much shielding he just has. Just naturally, just stacking up into this one. He gets engaged on, but takes no damage.
He has still taken no damage, and he's taken 3-4 ticks of that Chaos Storm as well. Really good cleanse from him to get out of that Amumu ulti with just enough time before the Victor really starts ticking him down. But it's a flash for cleanse trade, which is very beneficial for B-Boy. He's even got flash for the next time that Amumu tries to find an engage as well. Cleanse obviously being a shorter cooldown than Goot's flash means that every time Goot goes for that, he'll be happy to trade cleanse and flash like that.
Yeah, the cleanse was enough for a kill in the laning phase against B-Boy, but probably trickier to make it stick now when his team is far more often going to be ready to support him. As again, we've got 8 members in the mid lane right now trading ultimates, in fact, with Leona throwing doing the Gravitums there. Out comes the Moonlight Vigil. Envy has to flash to safety. Furia rebuffed again from this mid lane tower. For the life of them, they cannot get the wave in to knock it down.
And I mean, even though they've got these trash weapons on Aphelios now, you can see that just the presence of the rest of Pain Gaming is enough. They've pulled up FNB now. I feel like we haven't seen FNB fight almost at all this game. That Cassante all out has been next to redundant in these fights. But Pain Gaming are more than happy to stand around this mid-tier 1, use it as their last bastion of defense. And with Furia constantly looking at this Baron and sort of sniffing it out, I don't think they're in a position to try and take this, right? When you're down in gold, with a composition that isn't like a super scaler versus a really heavy early game comp, they're in no position to take this Drake, and as long as Pain Gaming aren't caught sleeping, they should never really be able to get this. Would love to see Furia set up their attentions more so on that bot side of the map, just so that they can deny a soul.
So you can see there, Trigo, the richest player in the game, over a triple threat of Pain Gaming carries under there. And Furia, we're back on the Baron. But there's no vision on it, to be fair. And Pain are not yet moving. Someone is going to have to sniff this one out. Suddenly, all the Furia members have conspicuously disappeared. And they will rotate over. They'll find the vision. And Furia, they get it pretty low, but not enough to go for the flip. It was a cheeky one, but they'll be denied.
And constant efforts with this Heimerdinger Amumu combo. Victor as well there. They do the Baron very quickly, but it's unfortunately not quite quickly enough. And that does stem a little bit back to the fact that Trigo has opted into the survivability route of build path. But obviously they're trying to do things very early on in the game where they probably don't have purpose heading towards it. So it's another attempt, another mid-wave sacrificed for their plays around the Baron. And Gold missed out on. And again, slowing down their role into the late game. And again, we touched on this in the early stages, but to re-emphasize that if both of our teams are heading into this one at parity, it is probably going to come down to an execution diff. How well can the front lines buy space for the back lines to dish out damage? Bvoy and Dinkedo, they have a slight outrange over Trigo and Envy. You can see just the smallest amounts of poke from Ayu are always exchanged for about half of his health pool.
Yeah, and traditionally, since I joined covering this region, so at 2022, if you said execution diff, I would normally give the edge to Furia over there. Players like Envy and FMB are so high ceiling in that regard, and Pain Gaming always struck me as more of a well-managed, better macro, but maybe not quite as high ceiling in terms of mechanics. But right now, Pain are on a tear, and they are looking very confident here. They're looking very comfortable, not feeling pressured, not being pulled apart, not being stressed out by Furia. They've got this lead, this gold lead, just gradually growing from about 1.5k now to about 3k, heading into a minute left towards that Chemtech Soul, which would probably be one of the last nails in the coffin for Furia here. We saw Kaboom. They really would like Pain to take this to keep Furia down. Vivo Keydstars as well really need Furia to lose this one, or they will be locked out of playoffs entirely if Furia get one more win.
Pain Gaming have done a great job so far at the very least, keeping Furia in check, and then as well, setting up their own win conditions quietly. 2.5 items on Dinkedo and Bvoy, now forcing a teleport from Envy just to answer Wise's split push. This is not how we expect to see the mid-game start or tend to play out, right? It's a lapse in judgment.
Okay. Finds a bandage toss and gets his own blue buff and gets a flash out of damage as well. The TP in from FNB. Furia really wanted to find this one, but Goot with no more charges left might find Bvoy. But he's got the red gun, he's got the shield still stacked up, over 1,000 shield already prepared. As the Baron is up, the Dragon is up in 5 seconds, Dinkedo's TP'd back in. Someone's going to try and pull the trigger.
Karaoke with stealth. Goot with a bandage toss. The full frontal approach from Furia has been less than effective so far this game, and unfortunately it's going to net them nothing. The Baron may well be their objective, but the Chemtech Soul has been secured by Pain Gaming. There is no contest from Furia here.
They fully committed to this topside river with the vision, with the traps, with everything, and I think they've realized that Weiser, he goes low, but he's got that one secured, and he's going to go back and maybe try and TP back in. Yeah, he's just going to come straight back in. Furia, you want to try and get something here. You can't just lose the soul for nothing. But IU cannot frontline this. Karaoke goes to the flip, but he takes it away. He's denied them. He's absolutely ruined them there in the pit. It's a nightmare for Furia, and they're left running for the hills. Goot taken down by the Khalid from Crescendo, and they are scattered. Dust in the wind are Furia. Lose the Baron, they lose the soul, they're losing their members, they're losing everything. As Dinkedo flies in with the shuffle, gets Trigo down. At least, and Furia have fallen to pieces at the 29-minute mark. Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
A quadra kill for Weiser to top it all off as well. Got the Drake, went back to base, TP'd in, picks himself up a Baron buff, and 4 kills to boot. This has been a fairly devastating course of events for Furia. Vivo Keydstars licking their lips at this one. Let's just take another look, because Furia, they don't really do too much homework on this. They set up nothing around the Dragon. They lose that immediately, and they do nothing to stop Karaoke from getting in. They leave it up to the 50-50, and it's one that Karaoke, with such experience, such veterancy in the CBLOL, is happy to take every single day of the week. And Wiser with that TP just corrals FNB and Furia to the wrong side of this rift. You can see Trigo and Envy, they're trying to do their best, but there's only so much that you can do versus 5 people who take literally no damage with a Chemtex ult.
Yeah, exactly. The lower they get, the happier they are. CBLOL Jaxes today have been having a field day. And he even knows where the camera is. He knows. He's playing to it. Dinkedo chilling out on the Azir, man. Absolutely cold on that play with the Azir again. Someone please ban it. Can we ban it? Can someone please just take that away from this man? It doesn't seem particularly legal on him, as now FNB caught in a 4v1 under the tower. Probably not going to make his way out of this one, even with the all-out. Oh, actually, a little footwork to get himself to safety. Flash in from Karaoke seals the deal. And there's the turret and a wave prep to keep the push going.
Just a lot closer than it needed to be in terms of him getting away. Speaks to the strength, let's say, of this champion. But with a Baron buff out their backs and a 5 versus 4 in their favour, Pain Gaming, they can do a 4v4 siege down on the bot side. They can use their Aphelios and Azir with all their range. And Karaoke has just got free time to wail away on mid lane. They're just diving now.
Yeah, just going for it. Just end this one. Just wrap it up, boys. Pain with a full engage. They find 2. The jungle support duo, Ayu and Goot, will drop as the inhibitors fall as well. It's going to be at least 2 inhibs. They got waves, prep to look for the end perhaps. B-Boy knows it. He's feeling confident. FNB up in just a few seconds, but nothing he can do, I dare say, as B-Boy's even just hit red and white guns to seal that deal. Even if you found the miracle engage, this man is not dying with a Chemtex ult. He flashes in, goes in with the Gale Force to try and secure the kills. The Nexus will fall.